Good morning and welcome. My name is Ruby and I'm the Democracy Services Advisor supporting the hearing this morning. There's just a few things that I need to note. The first thing is that the hearing is being recorded, so it will be available on the QLDC website and on our YouTube page as well. Welcome to the members of the panel and to submitters, officers, and for recording, any media or members of the public as well. I'll just quickly introduce the panel. So we have Councillor Bartlett, Councillor Wong, and Councillor Brent. And thank you for volunteering your time for today. A bit of background, the panel was established at the 5th of February Council meeting to consider the submissions and make a recommendation to the Community and Environment Committee on the final form of the Kawarau Riverside Reserve Management Plan. And the first item of business today is for the panel to elect a chair for the hearing. So I'd like to welcome nominations for chair today.
I nominate Councillor Bartlett. I'll second that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have Councillor Wong who has moved and Councillor Brent who has seconded, and I will put the resolution that Councillor Bartlett be appointed to chair the hearing. So thank you, Councillor. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So just to start off, I'd like to welcome everyone here, the council officers responsible for the report and the consultation process at the table and in the room, and we've got two submitters in person in the room, and also to welcome anyone who's watching online or watching the recording. Move into the business now. So we've got no apologies. We're all here. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No. Yeah. And complement to the agenda, resolution of the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. We'll like to see that. All in favour? Carried. So the first item then is the reporting officer summary. I'd like to speak to the hearing panel report. And we may ask questions, but probably not anything in great detail about the report at this stage. More likely to come up during our deliberations after. Yeah.
Kia ora koutou, got Dominic from England. Got Jamie here, our principal parks planner. I'm a parks planner, and Alex, who's also a parks planner, who's going to be taking some notes for us on any changes throughout the deliberations as well. I haven't got terribly much to say, but just wanted to acknowledge all of the submitters that took the time to make a submission on the plan. We do recognise that we started this plan in the start of 2024, so it's been a little bit elongated, went on hold for a while as we had competing work priorities. So we're really excited to get it to this stage and be progressing it through and hopefully end up with a plan that represents the community vision of these reserves and ensures that they're protected and well used for the growing Frankton community as well as the wider QLDC community. And yeah, I think that's about all of that stuff.
Very good, thank you very much. Any questions on that at this stage? No. So we move on. We're a little bit early, but we've got both our submitters are under ready to go, I'm sure. So we'll move on to the submissions. So the first person to speak today is Penny Young. If you'd like to come to the table, and you've got 10 minutes to speak total. If you finish within that 10 minutes, we may have time to ask questions if we've got them. Given there's only two, we'll probably wait for 2 rigid about 10 minutes. Over to you, just start when you're ready.
Before I really get to before I start, which is to do with the reserves, that the proposed reserves, this was the meeting on the 24th of the 24th, still part of the reserve management plan. And the strip of land down Riverside Road. It is noted that it was requirement of the Planning Tribunal's decision. Don and Jeannie were present and presented their report, and it concerns me that it was confirmed that although the Youngs had a history, it should be had a history with this piece of land, the outcome had, and it should be has, been agreed with RPL. Now this is predetermination and bias in tandem with Remarkos Park. And this was the 24th of the 24th. It should have been in the draft plan, on the reserves. So it looks like with that it's already predetermined what the outcome is going to be. Right, my submission. We're generally supportive of the vision and objectives of the policy outlined in the draft Kawarau Riverside Reserve Management Plan 2025, particularly those aimed at protecting and enhancing ecological values within the reserve. We also appreciate and acknowledge of our father's efforts with the transformation, restoration and enhancement of that part of the reserve now named after him. However, we have significant concerns regarding specific aspects of the draft that require further consideration to better align with community interests and ensure improved outcomes for both residents and visitors. Below, we provide details and commentary on selected sections of the draft plan, referencing relevant excerpts from the document, the objectives. As expected, these are very broad and need refinement to ensure that these objectives do not provide for development of the reserves. The objectives should emphasize the preservation and enhancement of natural landscape values. Clause 5.3. The range of uses should be low impact, so reserves retain its character primarily as a green space. 2, clause 5.5, as above, so that any infrastructure sits in harmony with the land. Policies, clause 6.1 G, vesting additional land. For those who are not familiar with the history of the area of the land, we confirm that some 34 years ago, it was agreed by way of joint memorandum, appeal number 55/92, that the area identified in Appendix 2, hatched in pink, would be vested in the council as a tree planting reserve. You could call it an arboretum, but tree planting reserve. We have attached correspondence regarding this, which speaks for itself. To date, no tree has been planted on the reserve, on the tree planting reserve, and errors have occurred so that the land earmarked to vest as a reserve has not. We discussed this further below in our submission, clause 6.1.2c. We support the current location of Twin Rivers Trail. We oppose the additional of new trails, particularly if they adjoin our land, and any relocation of a trail bordering in the vicinity of our residential property would significantly affect our privacy, safety, enjoyment of our property. In addition to our comments above, we submit that certain assets, particularly across the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve, should be pedestrian-only spaces The draft plan could go further in recognising the diminishing opportunities for pedestrians. Only walking trails within the district. Thank you very much. The increasing numbers of cyclists travel at excessive speed does not align with the intended ecological objectives for this reserve, and the draft plan should provide certain spaces which excludes dogs, particularly within the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve, as once again, the emphasis should be on ecological values of the reserve, including encouraging native fauna. Clause 6.1.3. Infrastructure. The draft plan requires more specific information, such as defined as a building and structure. Where do you propose to place these buildings and structures? We support the installation of seating for the public in appropriate places and appropriate place of public toilets, but more details are required. Clause 6.1.3. C. As above, we support the installation of public toilets. However, the location of these is important to us. We are aware of situations where there is the unintended effects of encouraging freedom camping in areas where car parking is in close vicinities of public toilets. Clause 6.1.3e. It is difficult to determine what is envisioned by the statement. An example of what these structures should be included. Given the lack of detail, we oppose any structure unless they are of a minor, and I mean minor, nature. Clause 6.1.4a. We support the formation of additional tracks and trails for pedestrians' access, subject to our comments in clause 6.1.2c above. However, we oppose any access that would be for the purpose of financial gain of any other party. Clause 6.1.6. We support the use for short-term community events as outlined in this clause. However, we would like this to be explained to note that these are alcohol-free events. Clause 6.1.7. We oppose any commercial activity of any nature on the reserve other than the marathon and the current lease to the kindergarten. Commercial activity was not agreed to when the area was designated as a reserve. Clause 6.1.10 to include no alcohol. Unnamed reserve, Riverside Road. Clause 6.22a. We are unable to support including arrival roads on the reserve until further details of what this entails to provide, although we are in general support of anything that maintains the natural character of the land. We would like the Queenstown QLDC to consider naming the reserve the Young's Reserve, in consideration of our long association with this area of land and our efforts to ensure that the land is vested as a tree planting reserve. Clause 6.2.2c. The draft plan should address that freedom camping is prohibited in car parking areas and ensure that there is sufficient signage warning that freedom camping is prohibited. For safety reasons, car parking should be located in the upper parts of the Riverside Road prior to Twin Rivers track crossing this road, and should be adequately landscaped so as not to degrade the natural landscape values. Clause 2D. We acknowledge that the existing pump station is required to be removed due to flood risks. Regardless of the flooding risk, we have also witnessed issues with the pump that have resulted in sewage leaks. However, we oppose this being located in an area identified in Appendix 2, hatched in pink. This area has been identified as unsuitable for the location of a pump station. It is also wholly unacceptable that the area of land available to relocate the pump station, that it is planned to locate this in the immediate vicinity of the only residential property adjacent to the reserve. There is no guarantee that the pump station would not fail. Surge pump stations operate in harsh, demanding environments, making them prone to mechanical, electrical, and structural issues.
Time is just
Thank-
enough.
Big hand.
The time's nearly up. If you want to just
Oh,
wrap up.
okay. We'll leave that bit. The reserve should be predominantly a green space. It has been approximately 34 years to date, and no tree has been planted within the designated area. And the reserve plan is, we are all aware that trees provide shade, reduce freeze thaw, damage, minimize erosion, maintain stability and biodiversity of the thing. Let's go on. In summary, after decades of delay, inaction, and obfuscation, we would like the Council to honour the Tribunal's decision and joint memorandum, which it was a party to, and have the primary focus of the Riverside Reserve to be tree planted. Also attached is a copy to Council, which was in our submission. It was to be the full length of the southwestern boundary. Our surveys were contacted the Council on the 27th of April, 10th of May. They also, in the letters, which I have here, the copies, they also contacted the Council on the 19th of April. Hasn't been able to locate that one, but it's clearly in the 10th of May's letter, the 19th of April. And then a letter on the 15th of May was one back to Remarkables Park's surveyor, which was Lamb and Associates, and it was signed by Bruce Richards, acknowledging their letter on the 10th of May and what had happened. These are very crucial letters. These were what Remarkables Park had submitted for tree planting. That's the encroachment from, you can see where the fence line is now and where it was. It's moved over towards the river. That's what the reserve did look like. And there's more pictures of that. And that was before everything started. This is a calendar from 1992, so this is an older photograph of it. It was outstanding.
Very good, thank you.
I did want to say about the recreant, small piece about the, it's equally as important and crucial for the recreant strip along the Ivan Young's border of the river, with flood, and it's already got lined with flood protection willows. Not all willows are crackle down there. That part is actually flood protection willows, and they don't have a name, they have a number. And it was before the ORC came into the equation. It was when there was a catchment board. And it is critical to have a mixture of mixed native plantings for the aquatic and terrestrial animal, bird life, and lizards, etc., for a source of food, habitat, and self-haven. And it should be as what was intended. Therefore, it should be walking access only. The reserve for tree planting with walking, cycling, trail, picnicking there, with a tapestry of splendid colour and shade. This was what the trees will provide. It will be adding to, it will give an added bonus to that area. And for bird watching photography, it already has tuis, black fantails, quail, wood pigeons, and kaka, which we have on our property, which will go over to there.
You'll need to finish up now. Thanks, Penny.
Yep, that is fine. I was only going to say, with a remarkable backdrop, you couldn't wish for anything more.
Very good. Thank you very much. No
Well,
time,
thank you.
no time for questions now. Sorry. Thank you very much.
No, I got most of that out, but people did want to see and read the documents, which I have. I'm very pleased to show them. And there's also one which, no, it's not of, doesn't really count just yet.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brian.
Perhaps I'll just start with that. You know, I'm from Park. Worth noting that in terms of Penny, I can fully support the urgency she wants to give the planting of the reserve, and don't have any problem back here. And you'll see it from our submission, we want the same. It's regrettable that there is planting there. One issue that I do have with her comment was the suggestion that the hatched area proposed for the pump now is unsuitable. There was an agreement with Councillor D signed in 2014, and it identified a site, and that was actually in the road that goes down towards the Young's house. We had discussions with Ulrich Glasner, who was the infrastructure engineer here for some years, and he actually asked us to take it out of that area and move it back into the reserve. So since then, we found a location that was agreed with council, and that's what we're working on. It is within the hatched area. There's no subterfuge about the land being given. I fully support the land becoming council. There's already a survey plan that shows just over half of that area be vested in council, and we have gone through the necessary steps to actually get the 2G4C for that. The delay was because there were two sites above it that Redwood Group are developing for apartments. They're on the same title, so they've each gone through Lynn's. This one next to mine, I hope they go through the same. Thank you. Look, I applaud the council staff with what they've done, both with the plan and actually how they've set out the provisions. I think that's really clear and really great to get their recommendations or their observations on how they see the individual submissions. So I don't have a heck of a lot to add. This maybe from your page 39, which is where I sort of just showed and read the changes that I was hoping to get. The first one the staff don't seem to have mentioned, which was, I thought it was worth mentioning the water conservation Kawarau order. It's an order in council that's got the status and the hierarchy of just under an act of parliament, and it's not old, it's 1997, and it really says we need to protect the recreational values of the river and its scientific values and its natural values. But it just seems to me that it's something I refer to and would be good to have in there. Going through the document, yes, look, I've made some suggestions on what could be added to the history section, and I actually agree with that change that the staff are proposing. They're saying adopt it in part and leave out the reference to us mowing and maintaining the area. It is something they've done. And we've built the trails through there. That doesn't deserve mention. That's fine. But same over the page 42. Very happy with that. At page 43. I made the suggestion there, policy 611F. Now, that hasn't been picked up. There's two parts to that. There's one is I'm saying, let's please get a tree planting plan. And I've used that capture in terms of community engagement. But if the staff want to prepare that, I don't mind. Remarkables Park has offered to help fund that, or to fund it. I'd like to see that plan built. And then the second part is, I know council's resources are limited, and the suggestion there is, if people want to donate a tree or help plant trees, that's all I'm interested in. And that's why I've put the second part of that in there. Remarkables Park does have a tree nursery. It also has some landscape staff and some machinery. We'd be interested in helping. That's what the offer's all about. So if somebody wants to couch that in different terms, that's absolutely fine. And then probably the other issues have been picked up by reference to pest species. Great. What I'd like to do is maybe at page 45, I've picked up that point about the in-ground stormwater infrastructure. And perhaps the best way to show that is by then, hopefully there's enough copies there. This is a plan from council's infrastructure maps, and the key thing there are the green lines. The green lines represent the stormwater, the red lines represent sewage and wastewater infrastructure. But if I can get you to focus on the bottom of Riverside Road and the cul-de-sac head there, and you'll see there's two green lines heading southeast from there. One's really close to the boundary, but those two lines are in the reserve already. Council upgraded the stormwater infrastructure in Kawarau Place and Riverside Road, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. They dug through that area. They actually reached agreement with us that we would continue on that pipeline in the future. You'll see the dotted line. Currently, it just runs across. We've got an open drain there, and then it runs through our stormwater catchment ponds. But in time, it's intended that that will actually be part of the permanent infrastructure. It was to go basically the full length southeast out to beyond the pump down there. But the most recent thinking is that it could actually just come a shorter route straight out towards the river. It would have a proper outfall. We've actually had one approved, an outfall further downstream, approved both by RRC and QLDC to go in the river. And so we're talking buried infrastructure. We're not proposing to attenuate it on the reserve. So the reason I wanted it written in was I looked at number D on your in the plan, and it says allow for the existing pump station to be relocated and upgraded. And so I thought, well, it would be logical to actually also allow for this connection of the in-ground stormwater to a new outfall. And that's why I put that language there. It did occur to me that the plan already contemplates in-ground infrastructure, buried infrastructure, so it's not absolute, but I think it would be clear to future people if they could see it there. The other main change that I had was I really wanted to push the idea of a bike trail down there. And look, there will be conflicting ideas about the value of bike trails and pedestrians. To me, one of the best examples is around Queenstown Gardens. There's a mix, there's trail around the outside where people can bike. There's areas where the signage up there that encourages them to dismount in the active areas where kids are, or to go slowly, and I think it generally works. Down at the peninsula at the Young's Reserve, that is outstanding. And I've walked it several times, that edge. When you look across the water there and see Peninsula Hill, and then you turn and see the landscape of the Remarkables, it's the type of thing we should include in our trails network if we could. It was back in 2016, we had the Trails Trust speaking here in support of that idea of the trail going around the outside, and it seems a very logical thing to do to me. They are, and I'll say just willows because they are just willows on the outside, and I do think that they don't actually add so much to the reserve as some of the other tree planting. The other tree planting areas could have pedestrian access through them, and that would work really well, but I think having a bike trail on the outside, using that existing road makes good sense. I do actually understand Penny's concern saying there would be change, but the truth is that their lot is against a road, and look, any road in the urban area, we've got cars parked and travelling past us. That is what happens on roads. That's not being suggested for this one. It's being suggested that bikes and pedestrians would go past, and that's normal to have that against a residential property in an urban area. So I think maybe we have to take into account, or I'm suggesting you take into account the greater community or shared community values in getting access to that land. I'm not suggesting that the current trail that we built should be closed. I think that serves a purpose. Those wanting to cycle fast, go down that route. Those who want to take a meandering route around the outside would do so. And that's my main point there. I've mentioned already we are willing to build that track at Remarkable Parks costs. We do want to be involved, or we do want to encourage more tree planting and be involved in it. And probably that's enough I need to say.
Thank you. Anyone, any questions about last time? And we'll read your mission too.
Can you just clarify, sorry, Ryan, could you just clarify where that stormwater outlet would be located on this photo?
Yes, so the two green lines coming from Riverside Road, and one of them is right on the boundary of the reserve. The reserve boundaries are shown in black. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as they turn, they sort of turn to go straight across the page. You'll see on the lower one, there's a little round dot that represents a manhole there, a stormwater manhole. So coming from there, probably almost a straight line towards the bottom of the page.
Oh.
So well above the Young's house, cutting through, and we've actually had that area surveyed out. We've had a design in there for an outfall, and that is what's currently proposed. It probably has the least impact in terms of digging up the reserve. And it would, you can see the other green lines that come from Riverside Road and above, and some out to the east. They all come into that area, so they would all go straight down out to the river there, rather than following across to the east. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, I've got you now.
And look, the other point there, when you were looking at that, the red lines on it show the wastewater network, and the little square to the bottom of the page is the existing location of the wastewater pump. You can see the infrastructure coming in from the top right of the page. That's existing infrastructure. That's heading down to a stormwater manhole, and the pump location would be south of that. And partly that's to do with height. It can't be any further uphill because it has to serve gravity for all the buildings that are in that area or would be in the future.
Would it be further down?
It could be further down, but the problem with the existing location is the flood inundation, right? And so with the council, we've agreed it had to be above a certain contour. We've actually had to raise our land to match it already, right? So we couldn't make it where gravity feed where it was there previously. We can now by having raised the level of the land. So yes, it could be further down, but it would be subject to inundation.
Yeah. So the minimum RL for it is just the outside of it.
It's probably about 2 meters higher, I think, where it is than where it would be than where it currently is.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks. And thanks for the start again.
Right, that concludes the submission part. There's a section here called debrief. Are there any questions staff need to follow up on before we go into deliberation? We do. Do we want to? If you've got any questions you want from those submissions, please like to ask now. To perhaps either answer or need to answer during the deliberation.
What we're going to make as we would.
So I mean that was the hearing part of the submission part. We didn't go into deliberations. Do we want to have a short break before that? When we go for half an hour, but might be timely to have a short break for 5 minutes before the deliberation. So I'll adjourn the hearing for the moment, and we'll come back at 22:11.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Reconvene now. It's 20:11 or start. And we'll move now into deliberations. So, and I think we've got the report. There's a number of recommendations, or claims recommendations made in the report anyway. mostly based on B. Let's cover what we've heard today. Please. Do we just want to go through each of those one by one? Probably the B most of it.
This is on page 27. Is this the attachment B summary of Let's Talk and then the plan office and recommendations? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, so yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So we've got, because is there another, so you've got the document that's got some changes proposed in it. Does that include all of the ones that are coming from submissions that are recommended?
No.
So I guess probably to begin with, I was going to go, yes, we went through the comments on the submission spreadsheet. You've got a column here that proposes changes. We just go through those and confirm whether we accept or want to accept those changes that have been proposed. Is that it? You do it that way?
Yeah.
I have to go from the screen because that's way too fast.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't count it.
Young enough to see that.
So just to clarify, in the attachment to the hearings report, there was one marked up version of the RMP, and that was Wakaha and Tammy's proposed changes, nobody else's. And because council a partner with Erie, that's separately to the submission.
So attachment E.
Yeah. And then there's officers' recommendations based on the submissions, and attachment B in that final column.
Yeah. So those are just covered in that attachment B. In the column, there's no other document or list on the report of those recommended or proposed changes.
No, we would do that once we receive confirmation from yourselves that you agree or disagree with those.
No,
Sometimes we do include one with the officer's recommendation of with all, but that's typically when there are lots of submissions and lots of different changes, because this plan is a bit more succinct.
Yeah,
it's relatively straightforward to go through the officer comments and include or not include.
Yeah. Good. So what I was imagining or envisaging that we do is go through either accept or reject any of these proposed changes, and then from that, and including the Okaha review as well, from that you would then go and adopt those into a draft, to an updated draft, I guess, which we would then see at some time in the future.
Yeah, we would leave all of those changes track, and then give you that version so you can see all the track changes that you yourselves have accepted before we went through and prepared that final version.
So that might mean that at the end of today we might adjourn again temporarily to give you time to do that. And we may just meet again online once you've circulated that to agree that it's and to confirm the resolution. Maybe or
yes, I mean hopefully by the end of today you would have agreed on all the changes that you recommend to us, and then we would go away and prepare that and then just circulate that back to yourselves, so that you can see that all of your recommended changes have been made. Yeah, that's right.
Do we agree the resolution with amendments?
So
So
resolution to with those changes, and then the draft will just come back and we say yes, that's exactly what we expected, and then it goes recommended to the committee.
and another option, if it's okay with you, Dom, is that you can bring up the document and do the track changes as we go, given that you've already considered them and provided a draft. You could do that as we go, and then as appropriate for with Ruby, is you could then have a resolution here if we've got enough time.
Yeah, I wonder whether
Unless we need to go away and do some further work.
it's probably easier for you just to do it separately from here after we've documented it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking some of the bringing in the waka and Tam units, for example, and again with the history sections from RPL, if you were to accept that, there's probably a bit of text to include in that, so it might be a little janky doing it on the fly.
Okay, so we can agree them today verbally. We can make a resolution at the end that we accept those changes, and then you'll circulate a draft just to confirm all that separately. Very good. Okay, so the first one is going down that column to the bottom of the first page of the spreadsheet. There's add policy 6.1.2 prohibit the use of the reserves for freedom camping. I only had one question about that. Do we need to do that? Because freedom camping is prohibited on reserve anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And this is sort of, I guess, as freedom camping has been such a hot topic, and I guess it's responding to a couple of different submissions that were made. And we've had some legal advice as well that if we are doing reserve management plans, then this is it should be considered through that process.
But just a little bit of context, I guess, is previously the bylaw controlled freedom camping on all council land. With the most recent bylaw, that was a different approach that council took, where they relied on the Reserves Act for reserves, and the bylaw controlled other land. So I guess this is one of the first management plans that we are preparing post the most recent bylaw. Previous to that, there had been some other reserve management plans like the Hawaii Domain, where there had been submissions specifically around freedom camping. Often that's silent, the submissions haven't dealt with it. Now we're seeing the NZMCA submitting on management plans as they become notified, but we also have a submission for this plan around opposing freedom camping. So it is an opportunity to address it in this management plan. Obviously, we have a scenario where not all reserves have management plans, or some have recently adopted management plans that haven't addressed freedom camping. I think that in Lomond, Queensland Hill, we actually did include prohibit freedom camping on the reserve following a submission in the deliberations. So I think this will crop up more with reserve management plans, and this is an opportunity to respond to those submissions.
I think that key part is that it used to be dealt with by the bylaw, but now reserve land isn't under the freedom camping bylaw. So this is how we manage it, whether we allow it or prohibit it. With the baseline being it's prohibited under the Reserves Act.
So because that was one of my next questions, was going to be what other reserve management plans have a similar type of clause in there.
Yeah, well, so we did it for we specifically amended the Lake Hayes Arrowtown Reserve Management Plan. At the time, that's when the bylaw didn't prohibit freedom camping there. So I think it'll be when these management plans get reviewed, or there are specific instances where we need to address that Reserves Act prohibition. So potentially there'll be a sort of a blanket review. We don't know yet, and that would be a lot of work. So this is just looking at this particular plan with this opportunity. This is and there have been the two different submissions, so responding to those.
Does it give more weight to signage and information education on reserves for that sort of activity, or prohibited activity?
I don't believe so. Whether it's prohibited under the Reserves Act generally, or specifically in a reserve management plan, I don't think that changes the control of not having freedom camping. What would be different is that if the management plan specifically allowed for freedom camping, then it would be different to how we manage all our other reserves.
Or if there was, like under the Reserves Act, we could go through ministerial delegation to to uplift that prohibition on a particular reserve.
Yeah.
If it's in a reserve management plan where it's prohibited as well, then we would need to go through and amend that reserve management plan to allow freedom camping as well as uplift that prohibition.
Sort of adds a layer of
Extra layer.
life or,
Probably just an extra process.
well, yeah, wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then sort of the angle I was getting at there was a lot of people that freedom camp would have no clue that's a reserve or where the reserve boundaries are. So
I don't think it makes any difference to how we manage it.
In the suggested wording, you've got reserves with a small r. I'm assuming we're talking about reserves with a capital R, i.e. all of the reserves under this plan. So, it's, okay, so I'm talking about the whole area. Right.
Yeah, we can change that too.
Yeah.
So that same recommendation comes up more than just once. I think it's on Young's submission as well, isn't it? Your proposed amendment 2 covers also as a clause, that same clause on there too, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We happy with that clause to be included in?
yeah,
Good. Okay, so next one. We've got a number that are very similar.
Sorry, Gavin, just so freedom camping as a definition there, is that definition somewhere else? Where does, so if we put prohibit for the reserves for freedom camping, where is freedom camping defined?
Or use the Freedom Camping Act.
And I think freedom camping is defined in the bylaw. Well, it used to be. We can double check that.
Well, I'm just wondering, do we need to just extend that wording to make it clear what freedom camping means? I.e. in accordance with our other bylaw or
We can put a reference in this to
just want to
align
make
it
clear,
with where it is appropriately
very,
defined.
very clear what we're actually prohibiting here.
Yeah.
Thank you. So sorry.
No, is there a page of definitions of front of
I don't think it's
Not
defined
of the
here,
reserve management plan, no.
but it's probably in a different bit of either
We
legislation
can
or
reference
bylaw,
that.
but yeah, I just want to make it clear as to what we're, so that we can point to the other thing.
And that's what the reserve management plan will, for buildings and structures, for example, it will use the definitions from QLDC's district plan, for example.
Right.
There is a list of related documents with the freedom camping bylaw will be listed under there.
Yeah, we should say. Although, only if we refer to it, because otherwise it's not relevant, because we've shared all of it. Yes, we'll ensure that it's got the appropriate reference and.
Someone claiming they're living freely versus freedom camping. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, the next one that cropped up on the page, and it crops up a number of times, is to enable public connection to the river. Covered out a number of submissions. Any objection to including the board on those lines?
no,
In the policy 6.1.2D.
I'm just trying to understand what the difference is or what we're trying to change between enhance and enable.
Well, one of the submitters said that in some locations there wasn't any connection to the river. So enhancing something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, I think was the point that it should be enabled.
Yeah, it's just
Provided for.
one of the submissions, which was this one here, from the Reforestation Trust, sought that to be changed to provide. And provide is quite a strong word that is directing us to go do something.
Yeah.
So we went with enable as a recommendation because that was a sort of middle ground where it's stronger than enhance, but it's not tying council to do something to provide for that access when unsure of budgets and how that's actually going to be provided for.
So that's more appropriate for a reserve management plan as opposed to when you go to a detailed design for actually landscaping it. Or next step.
So if a group or Trails Trust or something came to council and they said, hey, we want to put a trail down to the river here or open up some view shafts or whatever, we could look back at the plan and say, the wording's quite strong for us to support that. So it allowed us to give the green light essentially.
The only thing I had with that wording was that it sort of feels to me like it doesn't go that far. It's just, we'll enable it to happen, but we're not going to encourage it. And I almost wonder whether the submissions are saying we want access to this river. At the moment, there is no adequate access. So it's a case of, do we enable, but do we improve? And it's not necessarily a matter of, we're going to do that within this time frame. It's a case of we actively want to seek collaboration with funding opportunities or organisations that want to do this for the community. So I'm just wondering whether we just need to add a little bit more strength to it.
I think the challenge here is if it was QLDC land all the way to the river, it would be easy to do because it's Lynn's land. I don't foresee any major issue, but so maybe the wording needs to be around. We have Lynn's to provide access to the water or something.
Yeah. Because enable sort of just opens the gate. It doesn't necessarily
direct us. Yeah.
Like enable, especially with the young reserves, to remove that fence there or make it clear that that's this way for the public to use it. But it doesn't necessarily say that. It might be just a 2 metre gap where the public could access or enable access.
Yeah, I mean, a more direct word would be provide.
It's good reason not to.
Doing that on someone else's land is
enable and encourage.
I was going to say something like, what about support initiatives or something along those sort of lines, so that it's not something that we're saying we will do, but if we are approached by the Trails Trust or by Mana Whenua or by ORC or the Crown or whoever just go to open up some access points, then at least we've got it in here that we will support those types. And it's not saying we will do it because who knows what we're talking about, we're actually agreeing to, but something along those sort of lines could be worth thinking about.
As simple as adding in that word enable and support and enable.
Support initiatives to enable public connection to the river.
I think that would achieve what the Reforestation Trust is seeking.
So just reread the wording back to me then. What you're thinking?
So with your wording, support initiatives
that enable
or that provide public connection to the river.
So
support initiatives that enable public connection to the river.
Works for me.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I say that is it seems to be a common theme throughout a lot of the submitters.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Okay. Carry on down then. What's the next one? The number isn't there for the RPL submission. The first one is in addition to the history section. Except do not include been mown and maintained by a local park, which I think Brian Patrick referred to and was comfortable not including that part of his submission, wasn't he? Change the first sentence to something in the reserves. The issues with that. Page 15, I guess, of the overall report. Well, that change, it says, the southern end of the reserves, is that the bit immediately after the history?
So it'd be in Ryan's edited version and it's history section.
Submission.
Yeah. In the history section.
Right. 41.
So it'd be changing his proposed wording was the southern end of the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve was historically a fairy reserve. Just changing that to the southern end of the reserves was historically a fairy reserve.
I don't, you know.
The only thing,
Yeah.
sorry, my question was just around what the recommendation is on that, on page 41.
Yeah.
Is that all of the words in red other than and has been mown and maintained by Remarkable Park?
Yeah, so removing and has been mowed and maintained by Remarkable Park.
Just removing those.
Removing that, and then in the first sentence of Brian's proposed changing, proposed wording, instead of his wording, it should just read the southern end of the reserves was historically a fairy reserve.
Right. Yeah. Right. I see.
Rather than that, adopting the wording that he's proposed. Yeah. It's an addition to the history section.
Yeah, correct.
We investigated that that's all actually correct and factual.
With around the fairy reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do some further digging into it. But it's
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust Brian, but we shouldn't just be accepting accepting that. I want to make sure that we've got, if that's ever asked or challenged, that we've got some backup evidence to support all of that. If that's what we're going to agree to be putting in there.
So it's subject to confirmation.
Yeah.
No, what is a AI maybe?
The next part of that then is accept changes to proposed to reserves description. What is that? The description, I guess, the page back.
Yeah, it's fine.
Why didn't you read it in recommendations and hotels? The undeveloped private land, isn't it?
Is it actually zoned for those things?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's all part of the Remarkable Park special zone.
Okay. Well, okay. Need to just checking that these
Yeah.
can go because I don't want RPL to come back at some point and say we agreed to this and this plan before they've got it out to do.
Yeah.
So as long as that's what the zoning allows, that's fine with me. Given, let's go back up a page from RPL's red line. So in there, they put in, added that water conservation, Kawarau water. What's that all about?
Yes. So we did look into that and yeah, debate a bit and no concerns in adding that into the related documents.
Which one are you looking at?
In the RPL red line version.
Right.
If you go up a page of the one that they're looking at,
okay.
It's got a red line there for that.
Right.
For that,
the water
including
conservation.
that reference.
Yeah. So we're saying is that's
There's no concern from us to include that.
And description of primary use and activities. Primary use or uses. Whereabouts was it?
So section 3 of line.
Proximity of reserves to the surrounding residential area of Frankton and the Remarkables Park development and the connection they provide through to the Kawarau River Lake makes it important recreation to the Frankton community and visitors. So you don't see any issue with accepting that. Do you have any queries on that one?
Again, do we need to have any definition of remarkable park there? It's in capitals. Are we just talking about which part of it? Well, it may not be material, but
It's just
just the area
the surrounding residential areas.
Yeah.
And the Frankton and the Remarkables Park development.
Like Franklin Flats,
Yeah.
Franklin Flats would
yeah,
broaden it out for the
yeah,
wider, you know, all
kind
being
of what I-
inclusive.
yeah. And, well, remarkable park is a particular, entity, rather have something, more reference to the actual area rather than remarkable park. We call something different in the future.
All of that area though was Remarkables Park development. All of the areas immediately surrounding these reserves.
Yeah, correct.
Why would it
Uh,
but why would it call
The
remarkable
Riverside
park?
with the unnamed part to the north of that. Yeah.
Who named it that
Say it.
though?
We could change from the proximity of the birds to the surrounding residential area of Frankton Flats, and just leave it at.
I
Leave
think
it
just
at
leave it at that.
Yeah, Frankton Flats means something else. Me at least, and possibly got.
You're thinking Franklin Flats is on the other side of the airport on the 5 mile side. Mm.
You can remove residential. Surrounding area.
Surrounding area of Frankton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The proximity of the reserves to the surrounding area of Frankton and the connection they provide through the Kawarau River.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
No, it's fine. Okay, the next one is step changes to policy 6.1.1E. Include removal of pest species. We've added and removed pest species.
Yeah.
Support community initiatives and activities that provide ecological and or educational benefits such as native hunting, removal of pest species, and wetland restoration. Any issues with that?
Just again for me, what do we mean by pest species? We're talking about non-natives. What are we talking about there?
Yeah, and
I mean, I'm supportive of it, but I just want to make
just
be clear what we're talking about.
it covers plant and animals as well, so
Okay.
includes rabbits and things like that.
Can we expand that to say that?
Yeah, we
Or is it somewhere else what pests are?
Yeah, that defines somewhere.
Yeah.
in the ecology section up the front.
Okay.
Several pest species are present across reserves, including crack willow, yellow IBAs, and blackberry and gorse, present with a smaller area of wild conifers.
It doesn't talk about animals.
Yeah.
That's more better than those specials.
The paragraph talking about ecological and or educational benefits. Is ecological plants or is ecological plants and animals? So what I'm asking is, should animals be a separate, potentially either a separate clause, or we make it clear in here pest species includes
Yeah.
shrubs and animals.
There is another policy 6.1.5,
Under ecology.
B, which is monitor and control pest species such as noxious weeds, wilding trees, and rabbits. We've had.
Right. Well, that's brilliant. Sorry. Well, again, I go back to, do we want to limit it to just rabbits? Well, sorry, it's not a game, but
Yeah.
you know, anything that,
Plant and animal pest
well, the
species.
possums are a
Yeah.
pest. So I just don't want us to constrain ourselves. Well, the rabbits.
Just flora and fauna.
Yeah.
A bit of biodiversity in that. Well, ecology is flora and fauna and how they interact with the environment.
I think we say plant pest and animal pest. We're referring to it in
Yeah.
other ways.
Yeah.
Is to
Just
make it
keep it.
obvious that it's not just brood that we're talking about.
Yeah, correct.
Is there
Yeah.
a policy we can, council policy we can refer to?
Well, there's like invasive, is it invasive pests or ORC?
As their
Yeah.
pest species list.
Well, could we just modify it 6.1.5b to say plant and pest species such as noxious weeds, wilding trees,
Yeah.
rabbits, possums, given because it's such it's given.
Mm.
And then the other clause further up just say, you know, pest species is referred to as was that away.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't, with 6.1.5b, that we don't just limit ourselves to those things like rabbits. I'm keen to add possums, but we don't know what other thing might turn up.
Well, that's the thing, is you can mention change, but there's going to be a broad range of things in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
That's right, it does say such as and doesn't
Such as,
limiting it.
yeah, true. Yeah, true.
As long as it's broad enough to.
Yeah.
Monitor and control animal and plant pest species such as. And that broadens that a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
Wasp species, wasp.
Yeah, that's right.
Future, I'm
sure.
And just add possums in there as another example. It is a
Mm.
predominant pest species.
Mm.
And then so do we want to just refer to that clause
Mm.
the earlier one where
Mm. Yeah.
there are it's quite a good point, including a removal of pest species clause there, because there are community initiatives doing that currently. Plenty of them. And it fits in the
So 6.1.1e would say such as nasal planting, removal of pest species as per in accordance 6.1.5b and wetland restoration.
Happy with that?
And with the change to 6.1.5b that we just discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
So the next one then is 6.1.2c to include reference to trail bridges as this is provided for policy 6.1.3d. These new trails, including new trail bridge connection, based on interaction with other reserve uses. With 3D enhance connectivity to the existing active transport network to reduce the need for car parking facilities.
I've given them a bit lost. So we're talking about the change to 6.1.2c.
Yeah, which reference? 3D.
So these are the changes that RPL had put into the red line.
Yes, and we didn't see an issue with the including new trail grid connections because that's also provided for in that 6.13D, which is enhanced connectivity to the existing active transport network to reduce the need for car parking on the reserves. And consider structures associated with improving the active travel network.
The only, I guess, reservation I have is that locations for bridges in the vicinity of these reserves has been pretty well looked at and found to be unachievable so far. Unless it was closer to the existing road bridge. So yes, there is some scope there maybe for an active. I mean, I don't have an issue with including it.
What are you actually asking to do in this? What are we saying? What are they mean?
So the clause is assess new trails, including new trail bridge connections based on community benefit, interaction with other reserve users and long-term maintenance. So I guess it's just giving that scope to allow for, if there was a bridge location identified, to allow for a bridge to be.
On the southern coast.
Sorry,
That's it.
should it be? Is it or? Because the test is, right, we're gonna do a test.
Yeah, I feel like what maybe is needed there is rather than assess new trails, this means proposed trails. Like the management plan is
Yeah.
providing guidance on new trails that are proposed to parks or council, as opposed to this plan directing parks to go out and
Well,
look at
that's
the new trail.
right, because this is quite a high level.
Yeah.
Obviously, with whoever submitters, they want more detail, but the purpose of this is not to give detail.
Yeah, it's to sort of provide guidance on when we are assessing new trails that are proposed.
This is the guiding sort of.
Yeah, whether it's parks or the Trails Trust or RPL or council or NZTA, you know, that's the guidance.
Yeah. So does this document drive purpose of action to assess, which it shouldn't?
It could be interpreted as that currently. So
Yeah.
So could we change the start of that clause C to say if new trails are proposed, then assess new trails based on community benefit, etc., etc.
Yeah. They're more
something along
comfortable with
those
that.
lines, yeah.
Basically saying we have to assess.
Yeah, we might be able to make that a bit more succinct, but that's what the gist of it is.
So it's more reactive
Just thinking while we're going through Brian's mission as well in front of you, do you want to cover off the points that we've, the changes that he's proposed that we haven't recommended changing or accepting?
Yes, maybe we should do that. We looked at the ones we have suggested we accept.
Yeah, however, up to you guys.
So that'll just be going through the document. There's no list of ones that haven't been accepted.
No, we just in the off the comment section in the spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, right.
There's an explanation as to why it hasn't been recommended.
Or should we finish off this list? Yes, then we'll just move across to that one. So the next one then is accept. So yeah, so that's 6.1.2C. We're going to just look at rewording the start of that. Next one is accept proposed change policy 6.1.5A to removing key species. So I guess that's similar again to what we just talked about. It then goes on to the 6.1.5B, which we're going to slightly adjust to include animal and plant and possums as an example. So yeah, I don't see an issue with including the removal of pest species in that 6.1.5A.
It's interesting you add in those words, does that also mean the removal of native revegetation? You gotta be careful where the comma goes.
Probably to the end, so native free vegetation, habitat restoration, and the removal of pest species.
Correct. Yeah.
Push it to the end.
Yeah. Just looking at the ecology section of it, there's a lot of emphasis on removing pest species, but the other side of that is actually enhancing native species, not just flora but fauna. So it's, I'm not sure how we're connecting that. And as I said, Brian's submissions, and a lot of submissions are all about removal of pest species, but it is very light on encouraging more native species.
With trees and animals.
Yeah.
Maybe because there's so many pest species.
Maybe so it's all about killing stuff rather than actually allowing the right things to take over that space.
We don't.
There is no.
And
6.1.5A.
and in the community section, 6.1.1.
He's got a new clause F in there which says encourage community engagement with tree planting. Is that covered in the so this is where it does come back to.
Yeah.
Let's see. He has, he's added a clause which says encourage community engagement with the tree planting and to supplement planting in the reserve in the open young, so which will reserve by our individuals and businesses to fund tree planting and called land.
There was submission by Water Restoration Trust, I think it was, talking about the right local speed for that environment. I almost feel like it doesn't go far enough to say finding the right flora species to attract the right fauna in the environment. I don't know if that's going too far for what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, around the Reforestation Trust submission on the eco-sourcing of the seas. We recommended leaving that out because again it was getting down into that detail of implementing how we implement planting on our reserve.
And advice changes on that as well, so don't want to be too prescriptive where by a few years' time.
Do we reference other documents within council then that do go into the detail eventually? So we know this is a high level document which gives a steer of direction, but the next phase is obviously a more detailed plan of how the reserve will be used. Should we reference that in this document somewhere?
So we could include them in like the related documents section. But again,
I mean within the body of the policy.
You mean say have a policy that says prepare a revegetation plan that has X, Y, Z or something, but
yeah,
I mean that would happen anyway.
Yeah,
like with your species lists and those sorts of things.
but I guess for anyone reading this, they know what the next step is to get the detail.
Yeah,
I guess the reserve management plan is to sort of guide
not prescribe.
council as to what we would or wouldn't allow on that reserve. And then how that happens, that would sort of come afterwards whether it's a community group or whether it's a council-led project, where we would make sure it's done in accordance with reserve management plans and climate biodiversity plans and the right species are being put in there by talking to our vets and leaners and arborists and things like that.
And we do have the tree strategy in development, which is around that, reforesting, revegetation, providing that direction around how to go about that. But, replant or revegetation or planting of trees could be 30 plants, could be 300 plants.
So these policies here, support removing pest species, but if there was to be some removal of pest species, it would be a separate piece of work that would also include what would be planted in place to regenerate, revegetate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's operational.
Yeah.
Can I then make a suggestion, given just around those two clauses, 6.15A and B? I wonder whether we do not change A and leave it as a bit of an enabling positive clause, which talks about native revegetation and habitat, and then amend clause B to say monitor, control and remove.
Yeah,
So
that's better.
the clause A is a positive clause to try and revegetate and restore the habitat, and clause B is the dealing with the pests.
I'm gonna put it. It's a wordsmith thing, but
Yeah,
just trying to find balance.
And do we need, in terms of A, we're talking about revegetation and habitat restoration, do we actually need to, refer to trying to bring back bird life, or is that part of, if you revegetate, then, you know, if you build it, they will come type scenario?
Or I guess what we're hearing is that comes within more detailed design plan.
Yeah.
Whether it's tree planting, looking at the full biodiversity ecology of the reserve.
Right.
and that's the ecological values
Right.
sort of cover that.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
native bird life and things.
Okay. I'm happy with that then, just to leave it.
So just to confirm.
Yeah.
615A,
Yes.
enable the ecological values of the reserves to be enhanced through native revegetation and habitat restoration.
Full stop. So we're leaving it as is.
And then
And then B, monitor, control and remove.
Species.
plant and animal pest species such as noxious weeds, wilding trees, possums and rabbits where practicable.
Correct.
No, is that getting a little bit too directive though as well? For reserve management.
Well, control and remove
Mm.
could be the same thing.
So what does that mean?
It's a great word called support.
Yeah.
Or enable again, things like that, where it's not actually the direction of the this, but the organization want to, and the direction of forward.
So what are you saying, Matt? So in terms of B, you'd start off by saying support initiatives that monitor, control and remove.
And that might be done by council, it's also might be
Yeah,
done
good
by
call.
external organisations.
I like that.
Six 6.1.5B, support initiatives to monitor, control, and remove pest species such as.
Great, thank you.
Because we've used enable up the top of
Yeah.
as well for A. So language applies very
Mm.
So just to go back to, these clauses too about enabling things to happen. So that 6.1.1F that Patrick had proposed, that's not being supported, but you've included another policy 6.1.1D, which does say support the planting of both native vegetation and carefully selected non-invasive exotic specimen trees where appropriate to enhance reserve amenity while maintaining ecological values and native character. It's sort of covering what he was proposing in the community, but putting it under ecology.
Yeah, correct. And in terms of again, that's sort of directing us to form a planting plan. We felt was a little too directive and prescriptive.
Let's go some way towards providing what you query.
And yeah, a planting plan is something that we generally support for. We have met the policies of enhancing the ecological values and removing pest species as sort of so we don't want to again tie ourselves into preparing that planting plan that he's proposing.
although that mission is a lot of support for vegetation and mentioned around that.
Mm.
But that wording leaves it open as well to other parties to propose to do things.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is, I think, what Brian's wording in the community section is trying to achieve with current community.
I think in terms of consistency given in terms of that 6.1.5D, should we be because we've used board initiatives that enable. Do we want to be consistent and have that in there as well? Or just be with the way it's worded and support the planting? Just semantic, but just thinking more for consistency rather than
Enabled, yeah, because we've used the enable one. Well, we've used support and enable everywhere through the
well, I'm just thinking as we changed in terms of that recreation, that connection to the river, we said support initiatives that enable public connection, and we just amended that other clause to do with tests around supporting initiatives. Just to enable that ability to say if someone approaches us wanting to do it, whoever that might be, that we can provide support for that initiative.
It might also be QLDC program.
Yeah, I'm 6-1 on that one, to be perfectly honest, but
I'm happy with it.
happy with the wording. Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
And also because from what we've heard, there's been the intention to plant some of these areas anyway for a period of time, isn't there? So,
Okay.
Okay. So if we just quickly nip back to the city's proposed, that Brian proposed aren't being supported at this stage. What have we got? So some of the things that he proposed are already covered under the clauses he identified.
Yeah, I mean, there's just general support for the ecological enhancement, which we've sort of just gone through, and as you've seen, it's already provided for. So yeah, one of his big recommendations was around the trail that he showed on the green dotted line.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't think this plan necessarily wants to get into the detail of where a trail is, does it?
No, that's correct, yeah. And the plan provides us to assess new trails on the reserve, so
the planting one we've just been talking about, don't support the one with community policy paragraph. You've got another one in the ecology paragraph section. Community, including businesses and individuals, form part of the community.
So yeah, that was just around the partnerships that he was talking about, and allowing businesses to come to the party with funding or tree planting. But a bit of that all part of the community. And
then you've got requests to anticipate stormwater infrastructure and easement. Do not accept proposed change to policy 6.3. He's got prohibit the use of reserves for processing attenuating off-site stormwater, including any diverted overland flow paths originating from reserve. Boundary other than in accordance with 8B. 2.2B.
yeah, so that's his additional policy around that stormwater outlet that he was speaking about. And again,
He suggests he's put the really out from allowance to construct an outfall some sort.
yeah, and so we got the 6.8 1.8 at 8B site underground. Consider the placement and maintenance of utility services where the reserves will not be materially altered or permanently damaged, and the rights of the public using the reserves will not be permanently affected. We considered that covered, allowed us to assess what they were talking about, and make that decision. We didn't need to specifically allow for earth easement and stormwater now, and we would assess that as part of the development process.
That's not consistent with other reserves.
Yeah.
So yes, categorically covered, no need to block those changes that he proposed. Then do not accept proposed policy 6. That's the same thing. Just
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about any of those? No. So then we move down finally to get to proposed change the Young's mission. Change range of uses to range of low impact uses. What was that in, do you remember?
That's
1.3. Probably page 53. That's the original.
Page 17.
Right. 1.3. Uses. What do we mean by low impact?
Again, it's probably a little bit up to the interpretation.
Well, as a lawyer, I don't like grey areas personally. So I'm just wanting to. I mean, I think I like and support it, but I'm curious as to what it means and what we're trying to achieve there. Ideas?
I mean,
And yeah,
Are we talking low impact on the environment? Are we talking low impact on the Youngs as neighbours? What are we?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're, I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's the informal recreation, but that's not always the case. If you had like a colour run or something, that's not informal recreation.
and yeah, you about the like amount of built form associated with it. So, something like a trail would be low impact, but then if you're starting to get into
It could be temporary, it could be.
a formal sport field, for example, then not so low impact. But I mean, yeah, it's a good point.
Generally, a visual impact of any great nature or any length of time. So yeah, to your point, permanent, or is it, what's your level of tolerance over the length of time for maybe the marathon could be considered a
High impact.
high volume of people, but duration is quite short. I think the medium time and size, volume.
I mean, all of the uses are all subject to all of the other policies and objectives of the plan.
Yes.
Yeah, how do you define low impact? Come on, let's start with other plans on one thing. But regardless, whether you have low impact in there or not, the other policies are all still relevant and help guide that.
So built infrastructure would be to meet.
Well, that's infrastructure. I think infrastructure has its own policies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would say low impact for those, but
Well,
No, we haven't.
I'm just wondering whether if we took out those words and add something to the end that says, and a range of uses by residents and visitors that is consistent with this management plan or something along those lines, so that it does actually just link back to everything else we've got in here, consistent with the values or whatever. Because the overarching theme from most of the submitters is they want people to have it as continue to be an open space reserve. That's that it doesn't have a lot of built up form on it, that it doesn't get rented out for big concerts and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering whether something like that change might then you can say, okay, well, if it doesn't tick all these other boxes, then it can't be done under the objectives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can say that that's consistent with the policies and objectives and policies of this plan.
Consistent with the vision, actually, the vision.
Yeah, it's been done with the vision.
We want it.
Yeah.
So 5.3, to maintain and develop the reserves in a planned manner as appropriate to achieve quality open space that provides opportunities for enjoyment and a range of uses by residents and visitors. That is consistent with the vision of the zoning.
If you really wanted to, you could put the low part into the piece into it, which sort of just further strengthens the vision description.
Low impact into the vision.
No, yeah. So where the suggestion was range of low impacts. So it's supposed to say low impacts that people already immediately when they're thinking about how they interpret that. It's already got an immediate start of low impact, and then it's referring to the vision in terms of what that might look like.
But then you get into discussions and arguments around what low impact is.
Yeah, it'll be the interpretation.
So that's why I'm keen to leave it out.
Right.
And just have it refer back to the vision, because if it's not consistent with the vision, then it's not consistent with that objective. I'm thinking there.
Yeah.
Like the point. There isn't really a definition of what is low impact.
But I mean, we're in a situation where, at the moment, the Resource Management Act talks about, assessing effects on things. That's going to disappear. So that whole bit of work disappears around effects. So it gets into what's the threshold and what's the level. I think, to me, as long as if uses are consistent with the overall vision and the policies and objectives of this particular plan, then that can easily be explained or not, depending on what the activity or use is.
Yeah.
Having the words low impact in my mind just opens up an argument for lawyers.
Okay, I'll take that. Did that.
But then low impact referred to in clause 5.5 as well.
Well, I'd probably just have the same comment there, to be honest, given. So my suggestion would be to have the same sort of wording at the end of that clause 5.5 that I've just suggested for the end of clause 5.3.
Which refers back to
the vision policy. Yep.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
That follows again freedom keeping exclusion, which we've already covered.
Yeah.
There were some other points though I think raised in the submission relating to access through the zoological reserve being pedestrian only. Whether this reserve management then goes into that level of detail about cycle trails, but is there a provision to allow areas that don't have cycle trails? There's also a reference to dog-free areas as well.
Yeah, in terms of the dog-free areas, reserves are still covered under our dog control bylaw. So it would just refer back to the dog control bylaw and try not to put across too many pieces of be contradictory to any other council policies or bylaws. In terms of the pedestrian cycle element, again, because we don't have any plans of a trails and things at this point, and we don't know what that may look like in the future, our general preference is to keep those options available so that we can assess them at the time that would actually construct them, or a third party would construct them.
There's a couple of mentions of different submitters talking about slow zones. Just wondering how we addressed or how we've addressed this in the wording of this document. how we've interpreted that and how we enable or allow for those slow zones to actually occur or be considered.
Yeah, again, probably time to come down to the details, a little bit of trail design and things like that, and the sort of user conflict. I see your point. It came up a lot throughout the submissions, and it's something that we see across most of our reserves, our town, and it's a constant issue that we are trying to deal with.
Is there any specific wording though that we've used? What's this carving out areas, not necessarily naming the areas, but carving out or considering areas for pedestrian use primarily. And so if you're using cycleways, they're purposefully slowed to a point where pedestrians are kept safe.
Yeah, we've looked at, with the town development plans, for example, like pedestrian priority areas around that sort of start of the Millennium Track from town down to the sort of Wilcox Green.
Yep.
So yeah, in that plan we did talk about pedestrian priority areas to make it visible that if you are cycling, it didn't preclude cyclists, but if you are cyclists in that area, then the expectation is that you're moving at a slower speed and giving way to the pedestrians.
So I like that wording, pedestrian priority areas. Just wondering do we reference it here at all?
It's in a development plan rather than a reserve.
Yeah, I think that does sit more appropriately there about the specifics of what you're designing on the reserve.
How do we explore that when they go through that process that comes through? Because that might just get dropped when they do the development of these other things. So yes, this document is more giving a steer of we want to ensure that in this reserve there is priority areas for pedestrians where appropriate.
Are you talking about the reserves, like the whole reserves, or the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve in particular? So there is reserve specific policy section that, again, up to yourselves. That may be, so that's in near the back of the. Point 2.3.
But I guess the comments around that trail user conflict aren't specific to the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve. They're actually probably more relevant where you've got the commuter trails. And that, I guess that does.
Well, in a way, the commuter trails are designed straight and built for speed, essentially.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Ivan Young Reserve, which is currently not designed for cycleways, let alone pedestrians. But it's sort of just giving a bit of an overview and a high-level steer of actually this area in particular. We need to consider safe spaces for pedestrians. It's not saying what you should do, what I'm saying, detailed design on making sure that these pathways for cycleways are slowing them down. It's just having consideration for it.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, there's in the front section as well, in 6.1.2 under recreation, there are policies around that direct us around what we should consider when considering new trails. So 6.1.2b, consider all ages and abilities and safety when new trails and facilities are provided and when existing trails and facilities are upgraded.
Okay. So, an easy way, which may not be the right way, but it's an easy way, you could just go with a specific reference to the Ivan Young Reserve.
And respond to a specific submission.
It being more pedestrian priority, is that what you're saying, Matt?
It's currently not enabled for anything.
Yeah.
Or it's enabled for everything. So it's more just
Mm.
trying to ring fence that
Mm.
piece in particular, so that
Mm.
when development does happen in that area,
Mm.
that there needs to be due consideration.
I think if you are focusing on that one reserve, then it'd probably be appropriate in the reserve specific policy
Yeah.
section.
Yes.
And 2.2.3 implement. Yeah. Yeah, deal specifically with that review.
Yeah.
But what you're saying now is the bullet that said that priority, pedestrian priority.
Yeah, well,
When assessing.
when they're assessing it, they may discover actually it doesn't need prioritisation, but I think unless we put it in there,
Yeah.
there is a good chance. Well, there is a chance
Mm.
that it's not considered at all,
Mm.
which highly unlikely. But
Yeah.
if we put it in there, which then
Yeah.
there is when it comes to time to decide.
Sort of consider prioritise,
Yeah.
creating a pedestrian prioritised area
Just when we think about
when upgrading.
safety for all users, all ages, all abilities, that piece of all the reserves is probably the one that I'm thinking of the most.
I think you're also, sort of leading towards perhaps more of a gardens environment as opposed to a through environment. It's a destination. It's more of a you visit it for the plantings and the views and the experience, as opposed to the adjoining land, which is primarily you're going through the reserve as a recreation activity.
Yeah. I agree.
Not a
with that.
destination, it's well, this piece is, but the
Yeah.
community, there is not a destination.
Yeah, or dog walking or recreation.
I guess we broaden that from focusing on trails to the development of any development of that reserve. And by development, I don't mean buildings and such, but just
So I'm not sure what the wording should be for that, but yeah, I think you get exactly what I'm saying.
And I support what Councillor.
Or maybe is it acknowledge the need for prioritising pedestrians?
I think it's actually what you went back to before around that garden-like experience rather than a thoroughfare. We've got the rest of the reserve as a bit of a thoroughfare with that commuter bike trail through the middle of it. But this area feels like a sort of
it's more of a
Queenstown Gardens.
destination.
That people would go to and picnic and rather than being interrupted by bikes screaming past or through it.
Well, you might bike to it.
Yeah, that's right. You can bike to it.
Get off your bike
But given
enjoy the setting.
given what I've done for that area, I'd like the idea of trying to preserve a bit more of that.
Yeah.
And not, to be honest, I'm not really in favour of a trail running through there as proposed by RPL. I'd like to see that area as a real,
I wonder if it's like a destination potential or, I think we can come up with a new, were you thinking of something already?
Maybe, but we can play around with the wording and of a policy for that hopefully captures.
Yeah, and I'd like it personally in that 6.2.3 so that it is there for the future.
Yeah.
And I think it's acknowledging it as more of a park.
Yeah.
As a which is a destination which has special characteristics that you want to protect and enhance.
Yeah, I agree.
And
And I'd be keen to see that included too as a perhaps it's called D in the 6.2.
We'll leave you to come up with that wording.
They just
I think you get the gist of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and we'll circulate the wording back as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But then to go back to the dog park, you mentioned that dog control bylaw. Are there any other reserve management plans that do? There's none that have any.
no, I think we do try and just leave it for the dog control bylaw to address, because then otherwise we risk having a management plan that's out of sync with that primary mechanism or vice versa.
So that bylaw would determine dogs on leashes.
Like it has done with
Through the
much
whole
code of land, but that doesn't actually have a reserve management plan.
So we've got a workshop on that.
Yeah, we do.
But when the dog control bylaw is reviewed, because obviously there's nothing in there at the moment.
Yeah.
It relies on someone submitting, someone in this room remembering that it was submitted on here, doesn't it? Which is a potential weak point.
How do we ensure that's captured and not forgotten about?
That's a hard.
Yeah, that's something we are working on at the moment with the policy team.
You do a resolution in the deliberations.
It seems quite heavy-handed as well. That. So I just wonder whether this obviously doesn't direct areas to be done, but whether there should be some, or whether there could be some laws that says allows for some consideration of a dog-free area in a reserve. So not stating that there is one or where it is, but that at some point in the future there is a consideration of allowing under the dog.
Yeah, because they're noting that that's controlled by the dog control bylaw.
Well, I think this area, and again, I guess the gardens must be covered under the dog control bylaw. I think that is a dog leash area, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a good point. That probably does have something. That is quite a prescriptive reserve management plan, though.
Yeah.
So everyone's under.
Yeah, no, it is 15 years old. Is it 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, our current practice is to try and make sure we're not writing policies outside of another.
But for me, this area, like you've mentioned before, it is a little bit like a gardens area. It's been planted and looked after.
Yeah.
I just think that potentially there is scope to have something in here that does allow for an area that is free of dogs or dog violations.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so when it also has the chance to be lost. And like when we're reviewing dog control bylaw, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily go back to and review all of our reserve management plans to see if there's something there.
We could, we could signal it, but I do wonder if there's a better mechanism outside of this to direct us to ensure that it's covered off. The dog control.
I don't know, and I was wondering, this is probably outside. It's probably more with the policy people that do review the bylaws. Is that whether there's a register they have of things that come up in the intervening years of bylaws being reviewed, that they add to a list and say we need to remember to include this. And
that was the direction that the panel wanted as well. As I said, we are working with the policy team at the moment on that dog control, the early stages of the dog control bylaw review. So that could be something we could signal to them and say, hey, this has come up and this is something we would want to put forward as a potential. No, I guess outside of that, you guys can signal to me and we can take note of that and take that outside of this discussion.
What if we write a formal letter on this panel?
We do.
It's a real loan from last time. Yeah.
We do have the ability. There is a report that'll come to the community and community environment committee.
Right.
And whether we have, and we can also speak to it when it comes to that committee.
I also would probably caution including it in this reserve management plan because it's not something that we have consulted on.
So you're right. I think for those reasons, because it's more properly covered under the dog control bylaw anyway. We just need to find a way to make sure it's not forgotten about for that. Whether or someone submitting for that bylaw or some other process that it's captured for that. Then that's the time that it will be consulted on.
Generally, it is when someone's consulted. During consultation.
Or is it just minuted in these deliberations that officers will put it on the list basically?
I guess also need to weigh it up against all the submissions which the reserve did get used frequently by dog users.
And that's why I think it needs consultation.
In the bylaw.
Going back to what I just said, probably needs to be proposed in the draft bylaw for it to be properly consulted on it. Where it would be in the same position as we are today. Differently, but
you guys we'll hopefully you will have the opportunity next week to raise that with the policy team, and there'll be parks representatives there as well.
Maybe we could talk about the database leading up to the consideration of the new bylaws.
So
Database of reserves that potentially might be hotspots.
There's early discussions at this point, and where potential dog on leave places could be considered.
So for Jamie, we are acknowledging that there is the scope to have a dog-free area in the park, in the reserve, but this reserve management plan isn't placed to make allowance for that. But we'll look for options, including in the dog control bylaw, eventually, and a draft bylaw.
But I think that's the important part. So that gets consulted on with the wider community too. If those restrictions are proposed.
There's a comment about naming the reserve or renaming the reserve. How's that covered? Is it covered under this plan, or is it?
Yeah, so this is for 6.2.2 for the unnamed area.
Well, no, I was meaning there was a submission about renaming the Ivan Young to the young reserve.
My understanding of that submission is that it was referring to the unnamed reserve.
Yes.
Yes. To this one here.
So it's like changing it.
Is it naming?
Yeah, so again, the plan supports a naming of the reserve, and because there's another process that would follow to go through to officially name it.
Does that go to community or community environment?
Yeah. And we've QLDC got a reserve naming policy that we would work through. So
Can I just clarify this on the name though? Are we talking about the Young's Reserve for both the unnamed reserve and the Ivan Young Recreational Reserve, or are we talking about just the unnamed reserve?
Again, whether the panel would want Penny to speak to that, but the submission should spoke to the naming
of the unnamed.
Yeah, and the submission was referring to that section of the 6.2.2.
Can we clarify that with Penny?
We can. We can.
Would you like me to?
Thank you. You can come and sit at the table with you. Because you've been so patient and all morning, and it directly affects what you've submitted.
Right, with the reserve as the unnamed one, that was in the tree planting reserve, which is 34 years still in the making, at which we've been fighting for. And it was supposed to be planted by Remarkable's Park. So I'll give a bit of history.
So
There is,
I think
we've answered all that. All we're really asking is, in your submission, you've mentioned naming the unnamed reserve, the young reserve.
yes, the Young Reserve.
Yeah.
Because we've actually been fighting for it for 34 years for the public.
Yeah.
And
So,
to date, there's been nothing.
Yeah.
So the council do not have to plant that reserve. In fact, Remarkable's Park was told in the 24th of September 1993, I think it is, if I don't look at my record, in fact I will look at it. Yes, 24th of September 1993, they were told that to get approval of their land to be vested in council prior to consent to title plans for that area. Once the landscaping plan had been approved, the submitter is to plant lot 603. Now 603 is where the sewer tank is now.
Sorry, Penny, just need to stop there.
Yeah.
The question that we just need to clarify ask for you is the Ivan Young Reserve. Would you be comfortable with that being renamed the Young's Reserve in conjunction with the unnamed reserve at the moment, if we were to agree to rename it the Young's Reserve, would you want, or would your preference be to have separate?
Would like Dad's Reserve to be named Ivan Young's Reserve.
So remain as is?
No, you can take the
Sorry.
zoological gardens out
Oh, okay,
Right, so we need
and
to
leave it Ivan Young's Reserve,
okay.
because my sister and I are still continuing to fight for the other. And I think after 34 years, because we've been a part of it for all that length of time with Dad, we didn't actually name Dad's Reserve, the council did.
I see. Okay.
We really wanted memorial, but that didn't happen.
Okay.
Didn't offend us too much, so we left it what the council did.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think
Thank
keeping
you.
it that,
That's all we needed to ask you.
that's all you needed to
Yeah,
ask
that's
me?
all we needed to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Oh,
And so, but to go back to what we're talking about, there's a separate procedure for naming reserves, not in this.
I mean, the reserve management plan supports the renaming, and then we would go through that separate process.
so could we make a recommendation today for Community Services, Community Environment Committee to consider the renaming of those two reserves?
Yeah, I see what you mean. So it's says under the specific policy, it's got support the naming of the reserve.
Yeah.
We need to vote for that procedure, that process.
Correct, and the reserve naming policy doesn't preclude renaming it to the Young's Reserve.
Yeah.
But there is a sort of step in that
Yes.
where we go to Oklahoma and family in the first instance, there we could to see whether there's significant to them that they have a name they would provide. So that's why I would caution away from including specific name within the reserve management plan.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. But I guess what I was indicating is, do we need to put an action in there to direct? Is that what we do today?
No, I think it's really covered under the vote.
It allows on that.
It does, yeah, when I name support the naming of the reserve, and obviously the
Maybe-
process to
Maybe
go
that's something we pick up
So,
separately in community
yeah,
environment.
make sure that that's covered.
Yeah, we get the reference to the pump station, which was covered across two submissions, but there's potentially, what I took from that, there is potentially scope for it to move closer to the river, depending on relative.
Lower down.
Yeah. But anyway, regardless of all of that, the reserve management plan doesn't specify the location of a pump station.
Correct.
It's just going to be in that place.
It just allows for a pump station to be located on the reserve. And when that new one's operational, that the old one would be decommissioned.
Yeah, and that's subject to a whole lot of other processes outside of the scope of this reserve management plan.
Yeah, that's quite big water detailed design and approval.
Any other questions on that submission? There was a comment there too about events being alcohol free, but that'll come under some other policy too, rather than this reserve management plan.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. There's no questions on that one. Then the only other thing I think is the Okaha review. What there's to cover on that one. If there's anything else in the general submissions we needed to cover off.
Only if there's any of the other submissions where any of the panel want to suggest or recommend changes where we have not.
Didn't see anybody up to me. Right, so then if we turn to the review of the document. Is there anything specifically that's come from that you suggest we should be covering or including?
Yes, I mean, again, I guess for context, generally we would have, in an ideal situation, we would have received all of that, and that would have formed part of the draft that you received, which is due to some resourcing constraints at Okaha and Tammy, that came in a little bit later, so that's why it's been provided now rather than in that draft.
So the first one, they've suggested more documents to be included in the relevant and related documents list. Is there any reason to either include or not include those 3 documents they've referred to?
No, so we've, from a park perspective, we've gone through and we've reviewed their recommended changes and didn't see any issues with including all of them.
All of the changes, right. Okay. So there's also another couple of documents proposed. It's a little bit tricky because you have to actually click on the little icons to see what they're proposing.
Yeah.
They haven't put track changes or anything like such. You click on the little blue box. Is it blue? Whatever colour it is. Blue to me. On page 55.
When you say click, you mean
Just touch
You
it.
just hover over it.
the thing with it, yeah?
You could get a full list of the comments down the right-hand panel as well.
Not on our version.
Right. But there's no popping up.
Maybe you see it.
No, I can't. Just going through it.
Okay, so yeah, page 55, it only includes adding some more documents to the list. Don't see any issue with including those. No. Page 56, they're proposing adding into the first page, first paragraph, the description, a place of significant kotahi. Page 57. Have amended to lead a previous list of products printed last name doesn't have the kotahi values. The overall design and planning principles are much overlap. They actually propose, so they've got some track changes there, haven't they?
Yeah, it's reworded that section.
Basically deleted quite a lot of it. They're on it.
It's just reworded a lot of it. Yeah. So you could kind of delete it and then reworded it in the comment.
I'm going to read out the new wording.
Yeah. Yes, if you could, thanks.
It's under Mana Whenua,
Yep.
page 5. For Kaitahu, a natural environment and how they engage with it is a critical component of their identity as a people and in maintaining their culture. All elements of the natural environment possesses a Māori, a life force, and all forms of life are related. The Māori of Whenua, Wai, Tauka, and other natural elements represent the essence that binds the physical and spiritual elements of all things together, generating and upholding all life. Māori is therefore a critical element of the spiritual relationship of Kaitahu Whānui with the whenua, water bodies and resources of the region. Whakatipu Wai Māori provides an integral source of wai, fresh water, provided by Hukawai meltwaters. These waters are recognised by Kaitahu as tapu, sacred, and support a variety of ecosystems within the Whakatipu Wai Māori catchment and the provision of mahika kai. The Kawarau River was a traditional travel route for mana whenua that provided direct access between the Mata'ao, Clutha, and the Whakatipu Wai Māori. It is also recorded as a kaika mahika kai, where wika, kakapo, pia, and puna eel were gathered. That's does it carry on?
Yeah. So Whakaroto is the traditional name to Kawarau Falls at the outlet of Whakatipu Wai Māori. Whakaroto, with one of many villages, formed a network along the river route to access Panamu at Te Koraka, located beyond the head of the Whakatipu Wai Māori. The ability to keep alive traditional practices passed down by ancestors in places traditionally used or occupied by descendants provide the sense of belonging and community. Belonging and continuity.
Okay, we don't have any of that on our.
No.
Kevin, wanted to have a quick agenda, and I can try and find the version. So that's a separate document, because when it merged with the full agenda, it's trickier to see it that way. So if you wanted to, and then I can send it to you to look at.
What you've just been reading out is not
No, but we are going to see the revised draft anyway. I mean, what you've read out sounds reasonable. It's come from people that it affects most,
Yeah,
that it relates to most. And I'm relatively comfortable that if what has been proposed is being adopted word for word anyway, and you don't see there's an issue with that, legally or anything else, and then we just see it as when the draft comes out. I mean, we adopt it as a change and read the draft when it's out, and if there's anything concerns about that, you can deal with it.
So there's some standard changes under mana whenua section.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of alterations to policies. That can you see those ones?
Which ones are we looking at now?
6.1.1e is the first one.
Supporting and ecological.
So support community initiatives and activities that provide ecological and cultural is the addition.
Okay.
And or educational benefits.
Yeah, we don't see that either. So. We've just got ecological highlighted, but it doesn't do anything.
Hover on it.
Doesn't do anything.
It's a broken link.
So just tell me, so the wording was ecological
and cultural
and or educational benefits.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
I think that's okay. I'm okay with that.
So then in 6.1.5, a new policy. So that's under the ecology section.
See them and ensure planting and other activities do not have adverse effects on Kaitahi values.
Yeah.
Would they be?
We want to get that specific and restrictive.
So that's what we've got in like our blue-green network, for example, which Kaitahi has been heavily involved in. There's a whole section on the Kaitahi values that we would revert back to.
Okay. Well, can the wording refer back to that then?
Can we do that?
Can we add that wording then, if we're referring back?
We do try and avoid too much cross-reference.
Right.
Plus that report that they have prepared is got some sort of complexities around it not being a council report that we can subsequently sort of use and interpret. It is for Kaitahu to the document that they've provided for us.
Yes, with that wording then, and it's the council document or policy. And we reference the values and policy.
Well,
that being vague.
yeah, I mean the Kaitahu values are have been adopted through the spatial plan as well.
I guess the what I'm getting at is it's saying that shore planting and other activities do not have adverse effects on Kawarau values. And it's quite hard to know what those are.
That's all.
Well, I think that the point is it's not really up for us to say, it's for Kaitahu to agree what their values are. And they have provided those for the spatial plan and then for the blue-green network plan. So is it different to cultural values?
So, yes, are we saying that this reserve management plan doesn't get into this level of detail? So, do we want to include this clause or?
I mean, ultimately, this is something that we'd hope to try to do anyway. But this is what it's a pretty like best practice would be to ensure that.
Well, and we have consider and respect rather than not have adverse effects, because we don't know if the activity in that reserve is going to have adverse effects necessarily, so we can't guarantee it to put it in there as a statement. And this is council's document, so I'm just conscious that we might be agreeing to something in this document that we don't actually know whether we
wonder if they should consider and give effect to.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable with that than promise that we're going to have
which is a very
That's pretty strong.
that's strong. Very strong. Yeah, and it's something that all of our plans will need to consider going forward as well. So
So we're saying we're taking out reference to adverse effects and really considering the effect.
I think that's good.
There was one further back up that was highlighted. I'm not sure what it said. It was under ecology. We've got landwoods highlighted.
It's just including the today name. But for those species, so.
Oh, for all of them.
Oh,
Off beach, river. Should be.
but then you might have to change the whole document where we reference.
I don't think we specifically refer to species
Anywhere.
else.
Things like some of the pet species like willow and things like that.
But I guess this particular paragraph specifically refers to recently planted native species. It's fair enough to give them their native name. Okay. Is there anything else you just cover?
Just checking that smoke and free policy is the same as every system. I assume it is with everything else. 63.
That in the original document. So.
Or the team, so 6.1.1. I'll just quickly brush over some of these lower points. Sure. Mutual use, uses and licenses.
Is that a typical clause for these reserve management plans?
Okay. And that kind of now some of the early feedback with
6.1.9 encroachment. I don't have a problem with that. It's just the awareness that there is probably going to be some encroachment already. So we have this policy in there, but we allow it to continue. How do we? This discussion.
Discussion about encroachment. I guess it's not condoning it by being silent.
Okay, so saying this is not appropriate and not allowed.
It gives us an easy thing to point back to when we do go and deal with it. We can say in the reserve management plan, there's a very specific policy rather than having to. Not that the Reserves Act allows it anyway, but you know we don't have to be going back to the Reserves Act and finding something. We can just come straight here.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that it's not allowed for on the reserves.
And
So all of these are typical across all of these mentioned.
Generally, yeah.
I'm trying to remember in here somewhere there was a reference to community garden plots.
And the submissions,
Was this in the draft or the just in submission?
there's for like community gardens and like market gardens.
Can we enable that in this draft?
So we've got that in the
6.1.1.
1.1.1.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you can sort of see where I'm going here. There's an encroachment already happening with many plots, but they're not approved.
Are they community?
Oh, no, sorry, they're not community plots. They're individual
Yeah.
plots.
That's where our definition. Like that's the definition.
I'm just hoping that, or making sure that that F is very clear that actually these have to be approved community plots, not individual plots that border residential properties.
Exactly. That could be interpreted as that.
Yeah, you're right. We don't want to enable people to think they can start
Oh, it says in here that
potatoes.
yeah, I'm allowed to have a production and other community members can steal if they want. It doesn't worry me. So it's just making sure that's clearly defined.
Yeah, we could tighten up the wording around it.
Maybe consider titles that put up food trees plants for the community.
And approved or something. I'm not sure how we make sure that that's
I think
not up to the individual to determine.
I guess that consider part is the approval part. We're doing the considering.
There aren't currently any official approved community planting.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can take a look at that one.
yeah. Maybe have a think
Maybe
about
play with some wording.
Anything else?
no. Good.
Left and nothing else. I got everything.
My dom and back up.
No, that's everything on that.
It's not only though.
From the back of it.
So I guess that brings the deliberations part to the end. We've got a resolution which will include recommending final form as amended, the changes we've agreed to today. And obviously we'll supply the draft. So I guess now we will adopt this resolution or put the resolution for a vote on it. It'll be subject to approving the final draft, I guess. Is that how we will?
The wording in there allows for the changes based on the discussions today. So
Oh, you just
agree
need a
to
final
that.
form.
Yeah. Otherwise, you need to.
Yeah.
Do another if you need to.
I think as we discussed earlier, I think we could go through this recommendation now. Resolution.
You need a mover and it's.
So I'll read it out. So the recommendation for the resolution is that the hearing panel note the contents of this report, receive all submissions of the draft Kawarau Riverside Reserve Management Plan, hear any submitters who wish to be heard, and 3, recommend to the Community and Environment Committee a final form of the Kawarau Riverside Reserve Management Plan with changes as an outcome of the consultation process. I'll move that. Councillor Brent. All in favour? It's done. Carried. So that's the end of the meeting. I declare the meeting closed at 12:32. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate the work.
Thank you guys.
Oh, yeah, great. Hearings better. Where are we from?